Smartly Uneducated.
You want me to lead it in?
This episode brought to you by Guinness. I'm Evan, and welcome back to Smartly Uneducated.
I'm Ben. And as you can see here, it's really good head.
Hell yeah, brother.
Hell yeah, brother. So,
very good head indeed.
I think I really just want to, one, let me lay this out, right? So, this episode is going to be about the Lockheed Martin cyber, oh my god, I just drew a blank.
Cyber kill chain, right?
Cyber kill chain. The cyber kill chain, Lockheed Martin. I feel like it's a really good topic to talk about.
You mentioned it to me in passing. I didn't really look into it because I wanted to come into this sort of blind. I don't really know much about cybersecurity other than I'm probably not as protected as I should be.
Yeah.
I also reached out to my buddy who works at Lockheed Martin. He said, yeah, it's an open source platform that anybody can use and that anybody is eligible to look into to use as well.
Yes, and if you go to their website, there's so much information on this. It's a really good, it shows the perfect step-by-step of what happens in the cybersecurity world, or not even necessarily cybersecurity, but just the cyber world of attacks that happen and how it works, step by step, like the reconnaissance, I just drew a blank because I'm an idiot. However,
well, look, there's a whole huge list.
Yeah, so I did a deep dive into it because it got mentioned in my class because I'm in cybersecurity school right now myself.
Yeah.
Fortunately, I had a little leg up when I went into the course because I already had a good knowledge base prior. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So,
You had a bit of understanding of what you're supposed to be doing and
Yeah.
coding in general and understanding it based around. You said you played like a Linux game whenever you were a kid and did a little bit of playing around with it in the
I watched my brother
meantime.
I'll openly say I watched my brother hack into shit when I was a kid.
Yeah.
I never knew how to do it per se, but I used to literally just like ever since I was like 7 years old, I would literally sneak into his room, or he'd just let me in there at like 1 o'clock in the morning because he'd be up all night, and I would just like watch over his fucking shoulder.
Yeah.
And I didn't know what I was looking at, and he would point things out and say things, but they meant nothing to me at the time. But I memorized them, like I remembered them. So by the time I got in here, it was kind of a weird experience doing cybersecurity school because it was like I had these moments while we were, so far in the course where it's like, I know what this is. I may not have done it before, but I remember watching my brother do this. Or things of similar in that nature, just the whole concepts behind it. So it was like, oh, I have a lot of familiarity that helped.
The only coding I have understanding with is HTML on MySpace. That's all I knew how to do. I could make
HTML is still a very useful thing to know.
I can make my background any color. I can put any song I wanted to on there.
Fun fact, you can actually develop apps for Android and iOS utilizing HTML, JavaScript, CSS, and shit like that through a hybrid platform. So if you know how to do that, you can make granted that has limitations.
Yeah, it's very limited.
Because the more complex of the application you're making, it may not translate into the native language that you're desiring 120%. I've learned that personally with just personal projects because I tried to do it to save time, and now I'm having to do everything individually.
Well,
but that's a whole other thing.
That's a learning curve, right?
I was just making a point, or not point, just adding into you talking about coding. But no, the whole coding, I used to watch my brother code, but I also used to watch him hack shit, and he would talk about stuff. He was one of those guys who used to use, you ever see the movie War Games, for example?
Yeah.
How Matthew Broderick, that's for the listeners. I know you've seen it. But, in War Games, he uses the landline telephone, right? And he has to, get his thing and hook it up on the deal.
I love that movie, by the way.
My brother used to do that. He was one of those kids. He was essentially a Matthew Broderick. What?
No way.
Yeah.
Huh.
He used to do that. Back in the 80s and shit. Late 80s. Hell, he was still doing that up until 1991 until we actually upgraded the hardware in our house. When we moved again.
Did he ever get caught doing any of this, or was he...
There's a close call. I can share a couple stories.
Yeah.
After we talk about the thing. Because they were really fascinating because there was some close calls. We're talking about unmarked vans.
So I know a lot of people are sort of worried about AI and how AI is going to affect the internet and cyber world in general.
Mm-hmm.
Is this cyber kill chain anything going to help stop AI, or will it...
No, I don't. I think it's just more of awareness. I feel like it's just the more knowledge you have of how things work, the better you are able to equip yourself and able to start looking into things for better defending yourself. Like if you have to learn something or whatever, how something works, like some type of antivirus software, things like that. There are things you can do to help yourself, but that is something, and I'll go ahead and announce it now, and just say it right off the front. Nothing is ever secure. And I was actually telling you about this the other day on the phone.
You were, yes.
Especially with where we are now in 2023, I've learned and realized from going to cybersecurity school, and then from what I've learned in there to what I've already known, and then the things I'm working on personally in my personal project life, all of that put together, I've come to the conclusion that nothing is actually secure. And what makes a good, someone who's a very good cybersecurity expert, you could say, is not necessarily stopping because you're never going to be able to stop everyone breaking in. You're not going to be able to stop all the hackers. You're not going to be able to stop all the malware. It's going to happen no matter what. You can put up the best defenses. Eventually, something's going to get through.
Just like your house, right? You can have the best alarm system. You can have the best front door, back door, ground stopper.
Actually, speaking of house, I think the best analogy to use for this is like pest control.
Yeah.
For your home. Like, no matter what, you're going to get insects in the house. You can spray, you can do all these things, and you'll maybe come across a dead spider or something. Or you'll come across a random live spider. Like, oh, this guy's still alive, he just hasn't died yet. No matter what, they're still going to get in. It's like termites as well. Like, just think of insects in your home, shit like that.
It's a bug.
Mm-hmm. No matter what, they still get in, even if you treat and spray. You may not see them.
Well, but they're there.
But they're there.
Yeah.
They have gotten their ways in around whatever. They're probably hiding in some of the thing, but they're there. You can do a very good job of quarantining it, right? And that's what I was saying to you. What makes I've realized, and this is just where I'm at right now, and my opinion could change at some other time, so don't hold me to it. But my personal opinion right now is that what makes someone a very good cybersecurity expert is not necessarily stopping everyone, because you're not going to be able to stop everyone. It's being able to contain and have proper measures in place for when they get in, right? And being able to have a quarantine type situation, a containment, like what's the word for it? A
protocol in order,
right? A protocol in order for when it happens. How to contain it, how to manage it, how to stop it, how to shut it down once they're in there. Or even if they've already done something and they've left already, and let's say they physically did not go in, they have a bot doing it, right? That they created. Once that bot gets in, it's more of like, because eventually that bot's going to get in. That's the whole purpose of it. Depending on how it's designed.
Are there any sort of, how do I say this, like, if you will, a tactical training course that you could take for this? Because I know for like your house, you can go and get trained on how to protect your home a bit better. You can get trained on all these things and have fire extinguishers in certain places.
That's a very good point. Other than like a cybersecurity school, like what I'm doing, being able to do something, someone have access to a program that's not necessarily to get you certified, but for your just personal knowledge of how to protect your own personal equipment.
Yeah, like is there like a pseudo like program to where you can like do simulated battles or simulated
I've never
concepts?
Well, yeah, there's video games that you can do that with.
Yeah.
Like Hacknet's a good one. I mean, granted, Hacknet does not utilize. It is still fictional, but it does utilize like certain things you have to like certain commands you use in Linux, shit like that. That is one cool I don't know anything about Hacknet 2 because apparently that's out, but I'm talking about the original Hacknet, the first one. There's that, but that's not quite what you're talking about. I honestly have not really looked into that. I haven't, so I don't really know.
I think that'd be cool.
I was thinking more. I thought you were about to land the plane on. Is there something you can do? Like a course you could take, like kind of like a CHL course, like concealed handgun license.
Yeah, that's kind of
only for cyber. Mute your phone. So disrespectful.
Dude, my computer is loud.
You need some milk.
I got my puppy, right? So we're looking for like dog trainers, like somebody to help train my dog a little bit, and she's sending me messages. She sent me about 6 since I've been here.
Cute ass puppy.
Yeah, dude.
Cute ass.
Little Nova's adorable.
But no, that's a good point. I don't really know. I haven't looked into it, but if they don't exist, that'd be a cool endeavor to start. Like, get some people together, put together a program that people could take, maybe put it out there for free, like as a disclosure thing.
And accept donations and whatnot, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
And at least give the proper knowledge of what, like, a common person who's not tech savvy whatsoever, what they can do with their own phone, like with their cell phones, their personal computers. That's a very cool thing. There's something like that might exist. I don't know. I haven't looked into it, but if it doesn't, trademark, bitch. Boom,
Yeah,
we're doing it.
TM, right?
Brought to you by Smartly Uneducated. I just said smartly. We'll just call it Smartly Educated for that shit.
There you go. It's just it crossed my mind because you can become an expert at something. You can be the best there is, but there's always gonna be somebody better. So it's always better to constantly push yourself and try to exceed your expectations.
That, and it's funny you say that because, like, that is something that here recently, it actually just happened the other day, and I didn't get a chance to tell you about it. So I get a big head on my shoulders sometimes, especially with the
sometimes.
I'm a confident motherfucker, dude. That's how winning's done.
You have I am God tattooed on your butt.
I do. It says I, and then the am is A and M is right on each side of the butthole, in between the butt cheeks. So when I give people the full moon and spread them, then it says I am wink God, or I wink God.
That's what it says. I thought it said I own God because the buttholes anyway.
the butthole's right there. It's the little squiggy. It's got the little stretchies. You know what I'm talking about?
The little rusty balloon knot. Yeah.
That's what the butthole looks like.
Yeah, the rusty balloon knot.
That's it, yeah. Don't look at my hemorrhoids. I try to them all the time.
God. Just don't sneeze when you're taking a shit. You might blow out your asshole.
My lower intestine. Shit. So anyways, shit, what were we saying?
Speaking of that, I'm trying to get some guy on the podcast. I reached out to him, Chad Colchin. He does a all AI podcast, and he said he'd do 20-minute interviews. So I reached out to him.
That'd be dope.
Yeah.
Hopefully, what was his name again?
Chad Colchin.
Chad Colchin. We should somehow get this sent to him. Just this little snippet. Be like, yo, bro, we would love to do one with you.
Oh yeah.
We just don't hold it against us. This is a brand new platform. Like, I retired the past
Or hold it against us. Come fucking roast us. It's all right.
Yeah, roast us for being fucking idiots. But that's what we were talking about. Me being an idiot and thinking I'm God. No, I humbled myself pretty fucking good the other day because I know how to code in honestly about 5 languages, right, at this moment. However, I got kind of a big head on my shoulders, and I ended up I found a forum where it's like the whole forum was just people, like, coders. It was all people who, like, know that shit. Bro, I was seeing some shit that some people are doing, like just snippets, and the information they were exchanging blew my fucking mind. It definitely made me take a step back because I was like, oh shit, like these, like I know I'm good, especially at certain languages, but these guys are like, they're fucking slaying it, dude.
At
like,
one certain language or several different?
Multiple.
Gotcha, okay.
Multiple. And you can, like, just reading, because the dude, every comment was not even a comment. It was like a full fucking essay of them going intricately into details of writing stuff and, like, just going through long handout explanations.
Well, I can do that with rock climbing.
Fuck yeah, you can. I need my chalk, bro. Where are my climbing shoes?
Where's my sodium bicarbonate?
Anywho. So, anyways, I was just sharing that because you said the thing. But no, so what I was trying to say earlier was landing the plane on it. What I personally believe now is that what makes someone a very good cybersecurity expert, as of right now, is someone who can properly contain and neutralize an issue, and it has a protocol in place and knows how to remedy it. Because because you're, like I said before, you're not going to be able to stop them all. You're not. So thinking that that's being the best, like, because that's like my understanding of it was going into it. Like, I didn't know shit, when it came to, like, how things were supposed to really be. So I was like, oh shit, like, I gotta, if once I get done with the school or go through the school, like, and I get a job doing, I'm gonna have to, like, always make sure I'm stopping everything at all times. It's like, and now I'm realizing it's like, no, you're not gonna be able to stop everything.
I'm realizing I just said chalk is sodium bicarbonate. That's a baking soda. It's actually calcium carbonate.
I thought you were talking about, like, baking your hands.
I need to correct myself.
Anyways, so, so the cyber kill chain. Um, it's I guess I just want to jump into it. But just so you know, so we're gonna talk about. I wrote this up, and I'm about to start it. So I wrote this up the other day, and I wrote up examples. So if you see me looking over here, I'm looking at my papers that I wrote up and I typed up on Word. And where, Doug?
And I'll be looking up for the monitor above you.
Did your dial get moved?
No, it's fine.
Okay, good. But technically, I'm only going to cover up to basically phase 5, which is installation, because like command and control, which is phase 6, and actions and objective, that is something that I can pretty much sum up very quickly.
Gotcha.
It's the other ones that are that I'm really wanting to.
It's the preamble.
Yeah, pretty much. Because command and control, everything from there forth, it's so much, like, by the time we get through it, it's like, you're going to know what the fuck I'm talking about. Like, you know what I mean? Like, you're going to be like, oh, shit, like, now I understand this, I understand that. Like, so when it comes to those aspects, it's like, bleh.
They all just make sense after that, right?
Yeah. There are some things I'll pull up for perimeter security, but there are some I would recommend everyone to go, before I dive into this, go to Lockheed Martin's website and just Google the cyber kill chain Lockheed Martin. It'll come up with their website. Go to it, and it gives you.
But not if you're driving. If you're driving, don't do that.
Don't do that. But it doesn't. It's not going to give you like essays, but it's going to definitely give you like a visual representation of each step.
Yeah.
With a summed up kind of what.
Is it like an infographic or something like that, or?
Like this right here.
Yeah, it's an infographic. Okay.
Yeah, and that's from Lockheed Martin. I'll put that image up.
It's completely open source, which I think is super cool. They released this technology, which I obviously have no idea what it does. If it's just like a skeleton structure of how to do a cybersecurity defense.
Yeah. So this is I'm gonna go ahead and start. So I broke this up into 5 segments. And for each one, which I will name them as I go, I have examples, a little bit more thorough examples. So if you hear the same example get said, it's only because I thought of this after the fact. And so I may have the same example, but I have more detail to give. So it's more of a literal example of what would happen.
Well, I'm ready for story time.
So let's jump right into it. Let's start with the first one, which is reconnaissance. So the first stage of the cyber kill chain is reconnaissance, where attackers gather information about potential targets. And let's consider this example. Imagine an attacker targeting financial institution. During the reconnaissance phase, the attacker might use various methods to gather information. They may perform open source intelligence activities by scouring social media platforms, professional networking sites, online forums to collect details about the organization's employees, job titles, and then just potential vulnerabilities, right? They might also analyze publicly available information about the organization's infrastructure, software systems, or even recent security incidents, right? By meticulously piecing together this information, attackers can identify weak points in the organization's security defenses and tailor, their subsequent attacks to exploit them. In addition to digital reconnaissance, attackers might engage in physical reconnaissance. So I have examples for that as well, and I'll get to the examples of all this stuff.
Physical? They're coming to you?
Yeah, literal physical reconnaissance.
Like an RFID scan of your phone or whatever?
Yeah, or they'll go and rummage through your trash, shit like
see.
that. Where people throw out sensitive documents, and maybe they shred them, but they piece them together. That's why when you shred shit, you want to shred it more than once. You want to make it to where they
fucking burn it.
Yeah, well, people have pieced together people's shredded mail where they put it through a shredder. And, it's a real thing. Attackers might engage in physical reconnaissance. They may physically visit the target's office premises to observe security measures, gain insights in the organization's physical infrastructure, or gather sensitive information from discarded documents, hence trash.
Yeah.
Or is it? Sorry. So, for instance, rummaging through the organization's trash, known as dumpster diving, attackers might discover unshredded documents containing passwords, account numbers, other valuable data. By combining digital and physical reconnaissance, these people can create comprehensive profiles and enable them to craft more convincing and targeted attacks.
My dad went dumpster diving one time. He was hammered on tequila, and he fell in. All you can see is his feet little dangling up above it.
He needs to go dump. He probably went dumpster diving in Nevada, and he was just like, or Nevada, and he was like, God damn, I found a password to something called UFO1.
He's like, "There's good bagels in here."
Sorry. So we had to. Sorry, we're back. We had to
Emergency break.
We had to take care of something with the dog. So Dad went dumpster diving in Nevada, and then when he put it together, he was like, "It says UFO Craft 1. Holy shit!
Is that a nuclear code on the bottom?
There's a password on here. Let me get my cell phone out." So, anyways, sorry. So, attackers. So, just one last tidbit. Attackers may also use social engineering techniques to gather information. Like my pose as a trusted individual over phone calls, emails. So, like scammer calls, right? Where people get your information, shit like that. Some of the scammer calls where they ask for like your birthday, like the most common one is like getting your personal information so they can, steal your social security account, your security number or shit like that. However, another reason for it is because if they can get at least like your name, maybe your birth date, well, they potentially may have a password because people use that shit.
They can get anywhere now.
Yeah, exactly. So. Or they might engage employees in conversations to, extract sensitive information, gain their trust, shit like that. Like some dude at a bus stop. Let's say you commute to work, through like public transportation. Guy strikes up a conversation with you, rides the bus every day.
Hey, what's your email?
And he's only there for one fucking reason, and it's actually you. You know what I mean? So it's like, there's that aspect as well. Now, examples. And I'm going to go through these examples kind of quick. Anyway, sorry. We are back. We had to deal with another dog issue. Hopefully it's seamless from here on out. So we covered the overall like first segment, which is reconnaissance that I wrote up. But I do want to give some examples, and I'll just name a few. I'm not gonna like go do all the ones I listed because I listed quite a bit of different literal examples, which I know I covered a few in the reconnaissance aspect, like when I was reading the overall of it. One of the examples, I mentioned up scouring social media platforms, right? So just going into detail on that. So whoever's doing the attacking will search for like employees associated with let's say it's a financial institution on platforms like LinkedIn, Facebook, Twitter. Like they will go and search out individual employees.
Yeah, because they want to get to the big, the big names, the big
and
people.
See if they're dumb enough to be using those. Like they might when they do these reconnaissance on them, they'll see like have they ever used their logins on a work computer, shit like that. They won't try to break in, but it's just to look, right? Have they used it? Have they done this? Stuff like that. And they'll analyze the profiles, connections. And even gather the information on like the roles that they play at that place that they're trying to attack, shit like that. Other ones is like I mentioned the whole, sorry, I didn't mention it. So one of other ones is monitoring like forums and like discussion boards, right, that are public on the internet.
Yeah, I think like GitHub and other ones like that, right?
Yes, it's similar things to it, right, where it's a very public one. It's not like LinkedIn where it's like definitely a job-based thing.
Yeah.
They'll look into that, and it'll provide like insights into the that organization's technology stack, because like you go to the regular website and go to the forum for that website that's linked into that website where they talk about like security updates, shit like that. So it's like giving them a window. It's giving them a basically like it's like cliff notes for a book.
Wow.
So it's just like, oh, cool. Like now I know what updates they've done, or at least the public ones, right? So that gives me a good base of what I need to do, or give me another just a thing to write down in my tactical plan that I'm writing up to infiltrate, right? So there's that. Oh, sorry, and I'll read this one because it did. I did mention the website for like that company.
Yeah. So
right?
if you have like your phone number on there, will that affect it?
Yeah, because there is malware and viruses that that are advanced now. That attackers now have the ability, like Pegasus, like Pegasus 2, where they only need a phone number. They don't even, or like that Flipper tool, right? The Flipper tool is another good example. We talked about it briefly on the last podcast, but a Flipper tool is another good example of something that they could utilize if they knew about it and they had it. They had the ability to make it and utilize it, right? And there's a lot of people that probably do.
I mean, you mentioned Pegasus briefly just there. That's one of the ones that pretty much everybody has on their phone, and they just don't know about it, right? Like,
Yeah.
If you've been to certain websites, say Amazon or anything like that, some hackers probably put.
We're not
Pegasus.
saying it's on Amazon. It was just
no.
an
It's an example, right? Like like public websites.
Mm-hmm.
I'm just using Amazon as an example. If a hacker has gone to that website, gone into the code, they can put Pegasus on there, and then the second you go on that website, it's now in your phone or your device that you went to that
or
website
if they
on.
just have your number, they can just send you a text.
Yeah.
And even if you don't open the text,
Like the spam
they don't even,
emails
you don't
you
even
get.
have to open the text.
Yeah, I don't know about some people receive spam emails. I get some of them every now and again. It's like, congratulations, you just won a prize, or shipment from USPS is not going to arrive due to this sort of thing.
Or settle a lawsuit. There's a lawsuit going on, and you could get $10,000. Like, that's your part of
your
the
device
settlement.
your device is already compromised.
Yep. So with the institution's website, whichever one they're targeting, right? I just want to make the point of the website since I mentioned it. So they will examine that website for public available information, like contact details. You mentioned the phone number, right? Contact details, emails, shit like that. Phone number, shit like that. Employee directories, press releases, job postings.
What the fuck?
Oh yeah, dude. Like that can potentially have open the can of worms where they could piggyback off that shit. If like, let's say you log in to wherever you're doing the job posting through, let's say Indeed, right? And you know that they have a job posting on Indeed. So you see that they put a job posting on the website. Well, that company also utilizes Indeed to get their job posting around. They could go to Indeed now and look and see if they can find a listing on Indeed. And so then they can monitor that, right? And using that contact details, because what if they used one in the contact details, like let's say the email. What if they used that email for the login email for their Indeed account for the company, right? Because it's a company email. So they used it for the Indeed. What if they did that? Well, that right there, now they have an email address and it's associated with it. Now, they may not have the password yet, but getting back by passwords is not that complicated, right? So it's set. The dominoes are getting set up.
Yeah,
right?
Absolutely. And that's a crazy thing for me to hear, right? That anything that you put on any sort of website that says it's secure or it doesn't, your data is immediately at risk.
Yep.
That shows the age of the internet in regards to how old it is. It was like released in like 1983, I think, or something, 1984, around there.
Yeah, I don't know. Don't quote us on that. We don't know for sure. Because we've misquoted before. Because we're both dyslexic as fuck, and we end up saying the wrong date. And it's like, well, that's the one I meant to say. It's just the numbers are so fucking similar.
But it's like, it's such a young concept still. I know that it's been around for generations in regards to, say, Gen Z, millennials. We've grown up with this sort of thing.
Gen X.
Isn't that baby boomer?
No. Yeah.
Yeah.
I thought Gen X was people born in 80 or 79.
I don't know.
I don't know either.
But it's only been around for not even one lifetime yet.
Yeah.
So it's still
It is if you died early, so tough break.
Anybody in the 27 club, heyo.
Heyo.
But no, it's still a very young thing. So people who are hackers are taking advantage of the youngness of it because it's still the Wild West.
Yeah. Oh yeah, for sure. So there's that, and then of course I already mentioned the whole like they'll look and see if there's any kind of valuable insights they publicly announced for like for infrastructure developments, things like that they're releasing to the public about their model and all that stuff, and they'll look into that, right? So we covered that. Let me give like a couple examples. Physical reconnaissances, we pretty much covered that. We already did the dumpster diving aspect, right? Because that literally does happen. I know that sounds outlandish, but next time you see a homeless guy in a dumpster, for a moment, consider he might not be homeless. He's just playing a role.
He just looks homeless, right?
He just looks homeless.
Yeah.
Because he's got shit all over him. If you see the banana on the head, that's a good touch. But I know what you're really up to, motherfucker. Let's beat the shit out of this homeless guy. And then when the cops show up, we can be like, no, motherfucker, this guy's not homeless.
You don't get it, officer. He's
like, I really am. I'm unemployed.
He's
Look
a
at
psyop.
I even miss. He's a fucking psyop, which is a real fucking thing. We should do a whole episode on that.
So, briefly, there's a woman on TikTok who's this beautiful, blue-eyed young woman who is doing a psyop. So it's like a conspiracy, of course, but like she's like dancing on these TikTok videos saying, all the women look like this in the military. Come join us. And you can go to her like LinkedIn page or her government official army page, and it says that she was in the psychological operations division.
Yeah, she's like, look at these titties.
Uh-huh.
It's just South Park did it best. And the last thing I'll say on it, and I'm going to get right into this, but it's like South Park did it best, making the joke about like someone who's attractive and not, and they're like showing how people get treated differently. And it showed the
very true.
It was an old episode, like maybe season 2 of South Park, a long time ago. Yeah. And it shows a person, like a doctor, working on something, and it shows a super hot, obviously fake tits, like, shows cleavage, and because you've seen everyone's seen South Park.
Yeah, they have fake tits. They don't have real tits. The way
they do the art, they make it to where this woman's obviously robust, right? And she comes in. Is robust the right word?
Yeah, robust means large.
Yeah, like large in this area and in the booty area.
She has big boobs and big ass.
Yeah, and she walks in. Obviously, she's supposed to be the hot chick, and she's like, "Here, I brought you some coffee, Dr. So-and-so." And he's like, "Oh my God, thank you so much." And then all of a sudden, the ugly one walks in.
Fucking
right
Gollum.
Yeah, like, just a plain Jane, obviously flat-chested, and she was like, "Here, I got the, whatever, for you." And he's like, yeah, whatever, get out of here. Like, the problem is that's actually really fucking accurate.
Yeah.
Because I saw this AI face swap where they took an Asian woman and put her face on a switched faces with a white person, right? They switched the faces around, right? And made it to where the Asian person had, like, the white chick's huge, like, perfect boobs and, like, perfect body.
Deep
right?
fakes.
And it's just like, here, check out this image. And it's like, I bet you thought that this person was hot. And it's like, oops, Uno reverse, motherfucker. And then down below shows what the original image was. And it's like, the Asian person was not attractive whatsoever.
Yeah.
Right? And it's kind of weird what your mind does when you see that, because neither one of them had really ugly faces. Like, they both had pretty good-looking faces. And it's kind of weird what these weird, natural, these instinctual things your brain does.
I wouldn't say it's natural anymore. It's more of like a designed concept from seeing movies, ads, all these things, right?
Yep, I agree with that. They've been running psyops on us since...
fucking 60s, brother.
If your dishwasher's broken, just punch her once.
If your dishwasher's broken,
I'm just
go
kidding,
buy a
babe.
new
I'm
one.
just kidding. Don't cancel me. If you see it with 2 black eyes, you know that dishwasher got told twice. The jokes. Hey, these are fucking jokes. Not serious. My wife would beat the shit out of me if I attempted to do something like that. She'd shoot me. Like, no.
You can always order a new one from Russia anyway. It's okay.
Sorry. So one thing I will mention about the physical reconnaissance. We already talked about dumpster diving. We talked about visiting the office premises. So like a little detail on the office premise aspect is that they may, when they visit that institution, right, whatever institution it is, whatever they're targeting, they will like observe like what are their security measures that they have physically, right? They'll check all the boxes, entry points, CCTV cameras, right? Maybe they could hack in the cameras, shit like that when they're in there. Maybe they could do something. Maybe someone has to physically be there to really break in. We're talking about like a really distilled institution, like a really installed institution.
Think like a prison or whatever, right? Like,
or like Texas Instruments, TI,
Yeah.
right? That would be another one. That's a very hard one to break into cyber-wise, right? That would be a very hard thing to do. It's still possible, but if you mixed it with a little physical reconnaissance, saw what kind of gear they had set up, like what if they already knew they could get in, but they still needed someone physically there to do something to a server, or whatever, right? So this is where this comes into play. Now, this isn't for every kind of cyber attack. This is just depends if it calls for it in the situation, right? Things like that, CCTV cameras, badge access systems, physical security controls, all that shit, right?
That's wild.
Yeah, so... And we already covered the whole posed and as trusted individuals, right? Someone gets to know you.
Yeah, you go get a job there.
Now, let's move on to segment 2. This is covering weaponization. All right. So weaponization involves the creation or modification of malicious payloads by attackers. Now, I worded this saying payloads because that's what this is. This is a payload. Think military. This is a organized strike, right? Attack. This is they are weaponizing a payload and they are trying to figure out how to get it there, right? And that's what they're utilizing. So subscribe. Psyops, bro. So payloads to attackers. So like let's say like a specific example, a brief one is like email phishing campaigns. Attackers invest in significant effort into creating convincing phishing emails that appear to come from a trusted source. So like let's say it's like another company that company works with all the time, or well, let's say it's not necessarily a company. Let's say it's a client, and they get that client's information from the reconnaissance they did, right? And then now they're going to utilize that direct communication line by making a bullshit profile, right?
Will it have the same data? Let's say it's John at gmail.com. Will the hacker
what
still
if they
use,
broke into their email? That's what I'm saying.
Will
Like,
will the hacker still use John at gmail.com?
Yeah, he would probably use their email to communicate with them.
It would still be the same email that guy's always
that is
used.
possible, or make a bogus email that looks like the same, but it's not. And it wouldn't be necessarily a client at that point. It would probably be from another business.
Gotcha.
Right? So where they can make it look like it, but it's not 100%, right? You know, because there's like bogus emails from Chase, Capital One, things like that. And other fucking businesses, right? But if they were doing the profile thing, I would imagine the best way to do that would be to actually break into that email from that like client that they deal with and utilize their email to communicate. When they're communicating back and forth, it gives them the doorway in, right? They're watching all the communication and code on the screen while it's going on, so they're like waiting for their opportunity once that transpires.
That's crazy.
Oh, yeah. Oh, dude, fucking, it is crazy. But at the same time, not. It's common. This is very common. That's happening every day right now. That's why I want to talk about it.
Yeah.
Because it's very commonplace, and it happens like right now as we speak. I guarantee it's happening a million times over somewhere. Maybe right next door to my neighbor. Who fucking knows? It's happening right now. Shit, it could be potentially happening to my phone as we speak, and they're probably shitting a brick like, this guy's spreading really good information. We gotta stop this motherfucker. Crash this shit. So anyways, so there's that, right? So now with the emails, they meticulously design these emails to mimic legitimate communication, like I stated before, to make it look real, and manipulate human psychology to increase the likelihood of successful attacks. So, for instance, attacker might craft an email that appears to be from a well-known, we already talked about it, well-known financial institution, right? You know, we just
I mentioned earlier about USPS and a new package missing or whatever.
They would alert the recipient about a security issue with the account, with their account, right?
I hate that. I got one from PlayStation a couple years back.
And we know what happened to them.
Yeah.
A long time ago.
Yeah.
They got hacked.
Yes, they did.
What was it? Sorry. You know, stuff about their account, you know, saying there's a security issue. It will contain like a sense of urgency, urging the recipient to click on the provided link to resolve the issue immediately. You know, and of course the recipient won't know. They won't think about it. They'll click on the link, and then it redirects them to a fraudulent website that closely resembles the legitimate website. You know, and if that victim enters their login credentials on the fake site, the attacker captures that information and grants them the unauthorized access to the victim's account, right? So there's that. Now, the rest is just like little examples I wrote. So I'm just going to jump over to the weaponization example, because this is an interesting thing to know. So overall, the attackers will analyze the information collected during the reconnaissance to identify specific software versions, because that is key. Software versions is a massive key. That's why being up to date on your APIs and shit like that is so fucking important. Because if you're behind on a certain model, well, the updates they did are maybe beefing up security, where they found a crack in their security where people are breaking in. And if you haven't updated your shit, well, that's no bueno. Like, you need to be doing it. They
always say update every time you have one, right?
Yeah. Yeah, and then they'll do that shit like that. And then, they acquire a developer acquire exploits that can take advantage of the vulnerabilities. Custom, like for instance, they'll create custom malware, exploit kits, leveraging existing exploits from public sources or the dark web, right? So malware creation. So when they create these malicious software tailored to that target, it's not just random, just any old fucking malware. They will literally create a custom made malware program for software for what they're doing, for what they're targeting, what they're wanting it to do. It's 100% tailor made for that person that they're attacking. Some of these custom malwares are like Trojans, like a Trojan horse, right? You let it in and then they sneak out when everyone's asleep, like the whole thing what happened in Greek with Troy, right? It's that concept. So that's why they call them Trojans, right? Keyloggers, ransomware, where it's like they lock down your machine and say you cannot access this information unless you pay us the $500 fine. It'll put up like a bogus screen, because I've met people who have had this on their laptops.
Fucking way.
Yeah, from going to fucked up porn sites where it's so easily accessible, right? And that's literally what the root of it is. It's really from fucked up porn sites. Not the root, but it's one of the ones that were very common years ago, because it was so easy to get into these people. Like, people were going to the site because fucking porn sites are not secure what the fucksoever.
I doubt it, right?
Especially, like, I don't know what Pornhub's like now. I don't know anything shit about Pornhub, but I'd imagine they're just as shit as everyone else.
Sounds about right.
But the ransomware is like, they'll lock down your machine and make it to where you cannot access it. Will actually have a thing pop up on your monitor saying that, like, and it will say it's like from the FBI. It'll say the FBI has locked down your machine because you were looking at things you weren't supposed to look at, or
I've seen those
shit
memes,
like that. Yeah, and it will say that you have to pay us this amount of money. Click this link, and it's actually what you're doing. It makes you put in your routing and bank account information on some of this ransomware. Now, not all ransomware is like this, where it's like, we want money, but that's typically what it is, hence the word ransom, right?
It's holding your ransom, yeah.
Yeah, so you end up doing that the moment you put in that your account and routing number and select how much money to pay them that they want, right? Really, they don't give a fuck. But yeah, they're going to take that $500, but they're cleaning out your bank account now. They got your routing number, your account number, the works. Now they're cleaning your shit out.
I hope they don't get to my porn history.
Oh my god. 2 girls, 1 cup with another guy.
Tentacle girl? Oh god.
2 girls, 1 tip. 2 overrated. Anyway, so it can be designed to evade detection by traditional security measures, gain persistence or persistence on the target system, and establish like command and control infrastructure. So the moment that malware that's custom tailor made, now they have command and control. They're hidden still, but now they have full controllability because it's inside that malware that they custom created. So now they can manipulate, change things, do whatever they want, and they're like part of the root system in that way, right? That's just a brief example, right? Now, payload preparation. So when they create the payload that will be delivered to the target system, and exploit the identified vulnerabilities. So it can involve encoding the malicious code into a specific file format, such as a document, PDF, or an image. Remember, an image could contain it. No joke, an image. You would
That's
think.
fucking wild.
Oh yeah, dude, it's wild the shit that you can do. So it's like an image as well, and it will be executed, or opened. So how it gets triggered is either someone opens that file, or clicks on that image to view it, or it's just triggered, like they execute it themselves, like it's a timer, like they have it to where once it's in there and it's nestled, it will execute itself. So it doesn't necessarily have to be open.
It's like a ticking time bomb.
Yes. And then it triggers the whole exploitation progress, where it starts rooting through everything, getting all the information, doing whatever it was designed to do. So yeah, we already talked about that, where it comes to like social engineering materials, like phishing emails, deceptive websites, shit like that, that's rooted in the weaponization as well. And then of course there's test and refinement. So hackers, and this is something people should know, hackers test their their malware, whatever payload that they've created, they will test it in a controlled environment. Like for instance, I'll show you an example. Like when I write a script, right, and let's say I'm coding in Python, and I write an algorithm to do something. Well, I can run it in a controlled environment, right? I can set up a whole virtual environment.
Got to see if it works, right?
Exactly. And take that concept only with malicious malware, ransomware, you name it, whatever this payload is.
Well, that brings it full circle to what I mentioned at the start, where it's, do the defensive individuals have a test center to where they can test their defensive skills?
Yeah. That was one place.
Because the hackers have their offensive test centers.
Mm-hmm. Yep. And it's usually in their personal machine.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So so there's that, right? And then they'll ensure its effectiveness in evasion techniques against security defenses like antivirus software, intrusion detection systems, and they'll refine this shit based on the results, pretty much making necessary adjustments to increase the chance of a successful attack. So by the time they utilize this, it's very efficient at what it does, right? Now, granted, it was all in a virtual environment. The real deal is a little bit different, right? You know, they could be wrong about some of the information that wasn't public, or they weren't able to find through their reconnaissance, and maybe they have a little bit more beefed up security. You know, but it's just not beefed up enough. Like I said, eventually shit gets in, and eventually it will do its job. Shit like that.
Yeah, it's just going through every possible outcome known to man.
Yeah.
In milliseconds.
Yeah. So segment 3 is delivery. Which is that phase. It's just phase 3, delivery.
So far we got reconnaissance, weaponization. So they look it over, they create it, and then they're going to send it.
Yes. And now the payload's ready. It's hot and ready, and they know it works, and they're ready to deliver.
Little Caesars, baby, hot and ready.
Hot and ready, bro. $5 for a large pepperoni. So the attackers, they'll attempt to deliver the weaponized, this weaponized payload to the targets. Attackers employ various techniques to accomplish this, adapting their methods to exploit human vulnerabilities and technological weaknesses. So I'm just going to do the examples on this because the delivery example is kind of, it will repeat some of the information I already said. Yeah. Right. I just go into more detail, but the ones I originally wrote on here were pretty detailed enough, right?
There's one on there that I'm curious about.
So, for instance, here's some of the examples. So email-based attacks. So attackers may send carefully crafted, spear phishing emails that target specific individuals or groups within an organization. These emails often appear legitimate and personalized using, like we said before, information gathered during the reconnaissance phase, contact information, shit like that. That's public domain, or public and shit.
They'll make it seem like it's personalized for you.
Yes. So if they send, for instance, if they send an email to an employee posing as a senior executive for the company that they work for. So it looks like it's coming internally.
Hey, this is the CEO of the company. Send me the password to yada, yada, yada.
Yeah. So they might send it posing as a senior executive, instructing them to transfer funds to a specified account, like move a work bank account funds to this work account, work bank account. And it's shit like that. And it's not. It's bullshit. Yeah. It's really, you're just giving away your money. And then now they have access to, once you log in and you're doing that transfer, they can back end on that transfer of that funds. Because they probably have algorithms and bots and shit that they custom tailor made to monitor that, to backtrace and then information capture.
I fucking hate that.
Oh yeah. What was it? Transfer funds to specified account, exploiting trusted place and authority figures. Attacks aim to deceive the victim into taking unauthorized actions, right? So like malicious websites and drive-by downloads. That's another example. So attackers may compromise legitimate websites and inject malicious code into these legitimate websites that they've already compromised, right? And hence what I was saying before. I think I mentioned something earlier.
Well, yeah, but it's like Pegasus 2 and Amazon. Let's say they look for some reason happen to get into Amazon. Mm-hmm. They can put Pegasus 2 on there, and the second you click on it, boom, you got it.
Yeah.
I did not know that was referred to as drive-by downloads. That's interesting.
Well, drive-by downloads is, I believe, here, let me just keep reading because I'm going to enlighten some more. So when unsuspecting users visit these compromised websites, their devices can be infected with malware automatically. So it's automatic. you don't have to be fucking up. You could be using a normal website like Amazon, like you mentioned before, and if it's been compromised, since you're in communication, the whole shaking hands that people don't understand how a network works, where you're communicating over the internet, you know, it's like, hello, shake hands, website. Now it's a full communication. We receive each other, we shook hands.
It's got that peer-to-peer connection, right?
Yeah. So, or website to peer connection, right?
Yeah.
And it will automatically download without any interaction required. No interaction has to happen, and it will be automatically downloaded.
The fuck?
Oh yeah, and these drive-by, so that's what a drive-by download is, right? It's like they just drove by you and pow, pow, pow. Gang pops, bro. I even had the gun sideways. Real gang member right there. You know, and these drive-by downloads, you know, they'll often exploit vulnerabilities in the user's web browser or plugins to gain unauthorized access to the device. So one way to give yourself a defense against that is make sure whatever browser you're using is a trusted browser like Mozilla Firefox, Google Chrome, things like that have beefed up security. And then also make sure there's not a more up-to-date version of that browser, because that would help deter this.
Yeah.
Make sure your shit's up to date. There's a reason why updates come out. And I know some of the updates seem really stupid, but y'all have no idea that a lot of these updates do have a lot of security updates involved in it. It may seem very minor when you read it because you don't know what the fuck they're talking about.
That's why there's so many of them so frequently, right?
Yes, it's playing catch up constantly, because the Wild Wild West of the internet right now for this type of situation is so fucking all the time. There's so many quick draws at high noon happening continuously that it's constantly the sheriff. There's only one sheriff for the town and shit. Like there was already 6 gunslingers having the fucking raiding the side coach over here. Fucking there's 2 gunslingers fucking having a quick draw at high noon in downtown, and then there's fucking poor Betsy getting beaten for overcooked the meatloaf over here. Like, you know what I mean? Like there's not that's the best analogy I can make for it. It's like an old school thing you would see in a western where there's like one sheriff, one deputy, and we're understaffed. We're doing the best we can.
There's 10 criminals to every one of us.
Yeah. So that's the gist on that, right? We already talked about the social engineering. It's kind of this part kind of repeats itself in a way. So the whole over the phone or through messaging platforms.
Yeah.
Catchers are another thing that people should know about.
MLB or
no,
no,
not baseball, bro. Not baseball. But no, I'm talking about like a catcher is in for instance, catchers are 100% legal. You could probably go down one right now. I have a catcher. I haven't used it in a long time.
But what's it do?
So, for instance, we both have phones. If you were sending a text message and I was sending a text message, it would pick that up and it would display it. However, depending on what the message is being sent through, so for instance, iOS encrypts all of its shit. So when it sends, it's all encrypted messages. I'm not going to be able to read it, right? I might not even be able to see the phone number, right? I should, with some digging, I would probably be able to see, maybe an IP address, working through some stuff. But other than that, I'm not going to be able to see what's in that message because it's encrypted. Now, Android, for instance, their messenger. Now, I'm not trying to rag on Android. I love Android because it's open source. You can do whatever the fuck you want with it. However, their normal messenger, like the regular SMS, is not encrypted. So if it was being sent over the radio waves, right, my catcher would pick it up and I'd be able to read those text messages. I could intercept nudie photos. I could intercept all kinds of shit. Hell, I would intercept also emails being sent if it's not from a, for instance, use Google, all their shit's encrypted, right? Now that doesn't mean you couldn't unencrypt it. You can they can unencrypt that shit, but it's a lot more work. But let's say you're using it from some bullshit email website, right? Like Yahoo's like one of the worst.
ilovecats.com.
Yeah, it's like at whatever ilovecats.com, right? That information would be public. I could see it. And it's not illegal because it wasn't encrypted. The way they look at it in the court of law, it would be like if you're sitting down at a restaurant talking and someone's sitting in the booth next to you and hears your conversation. That's how it's viewed if it's not encrypted. Now, if you were on a private phone call and you went into a booth, closed the door, and someone came and started eavesdropping you and recorded, well, that's kind of illegal.
A bit muffled.
Yeah, it's kind of illegal to do that. Like to go and like, you know, something that's obviously meant to be private.
Yes.
There are laws that protect you against that. However, if you're having an open conversation about public, you know, in public,
Much like you and I are right now.
yes, well, then goddamn thing I can do about it because it's not illegal, right?
Damn.
It's that concept. So that's why I was saying, like, that's why like catchers, it's always good to have your shit on a secure platform, whatever you're communicating through, because catchers can catch that shit, and it works, you know, and especially if they know what the fuck they're doing. Whoever's running that catcher, they know what the fuck they're doing. They can decrypt some stuff, you know. So that's why I always like to use like Mumble and shit like that, like because that's a private messaging
Like
service.
WhatsApp is as
to
well,
where,
yeah.
you know, it's like, it's not just like has a basic encryption. It's very secure. It's got a lot of shit going on for the security aspect of the messages that are going over the digital plane. So that's why I used to use Mumble to communicate with some of my friends and shit, just because of the secureness of it.
It's just like everything in life. You want to be private. You want to be safe.
Mhm.
You got to sort of consider your online security, and most people don't.
Mhm.
Like we talked about that not too long ago. That pretty much everybody walking through their day-to-day life is just scrolling through Facebook at breakneck speeds and texting everybody their private information, photos of their credit card.
Oh yeah,
and shit like that. You know.
yeah. That's why I think it's stupid whenever companies ask you to like email them a copy of your social security card. I won't do it. I will literally tell them no. I will give it to you when I'm there in person.
Yeah, I'll drive it to you.
I'm not going to, because that's just one less channel I have to worry about security on. Now they're going to do whatever they're going to do. They're going to be sending your information regardless to like their main
Correct.
quarters. But if you the least amount of information you can put out there in the digital plane that's floating around where people could catch it and get it like that, the better, right? So anyways, so that covers the delivery.
What is watering hole attacks?
Where are you looking at?
On the right side under delivery examples. I see it under drive-by downloads, watering hole attacks.
Yeah. So watering hole attacks is basically like a technique that hackers compromise a website that is known to be frequented by the targeted individuals. It's the watering hole. It's where all the
you
animals
say you go to
come
Reddit all the time.
Yeah. Sorry, I didn't think to talk about that one just because everything we're talking about is pretty much common sense wise. Like
I've never heard.
or like
some of these
Amazon.
terms.
Amazon's another one. Let's say they're attacking Jessica down the street, some made up person, right?
Yeah.
And they know that they frequent Amazon. That's just a rough example. Like they could go and, and that's how they would set it up because they know that that's the watering hole.
She
They
goes
know
there
that
every
they're
night
going
at 6 p.m. or whatever.
Yeah, exactly. And they'll compromise a website that frequently visited by that person or employees of the target organization.
You still hear my dog yapping out there.
A little bit. It's not bad. Yeah, and then so it just covers what we talked about earlier. That kind of goes into other stuff, that we just said about like injecting the website with malicious code that exploits vulnerabilities in the visitor's browsers. Hence why, or plugins, which is why I said make sure your shit's up to date.
Absolutely.
It's not going to stop them all, but it's going to make it much more challenging for this to happen to you. So update your shit.
Change your passwords, update your websites and all your apps.
Yeah. Another one is USB removal media.
That's the one that
Physical
That's the
device.
ones you would see on like movies, right? Where they're planting
But they
a
do it
USB.
today still.
Yeah.
Right? So let's say someone was trying to hack into TI, the big tech place that's over there that's super secure, guarded, has guards and shit, stuff like that. Let's say they had to have an inside person because it's so hard to break in. Well, once they plug in that USB and they have malicious malware, well, that malicious malware that they custom created could be something where it drops a security perimeter or compromises a security aspect to where now the person on the outside can now successfully get in.
Christ.
Yeah, it's a real thing that happens. I know we see this shit in movies, but there's a reason why they put it in movies too.
It's based in reality.
It's based in reality. So there's that. So let's jump into exploitation. We're almost done.
Yeah.
So exploitation, that refers to the stage where attackers take advantage of the vulnerabilities. They gain the access to the systems, right? And so now I'm just going to go into examples, right? Some actual in-depth examples. So software vulnerabilities. So when they exploit this weakness in a software applications, operating systems or network devices, like for instance, they might target known vulnerabilities in outdated software version, hence update your shit, that haven't been patched by the user or organization, By exploiting these vulnerabilities, attackers can gain unauthorized access to the systems, steal sensitive data, or install backdoors for future access. Backdoors are something that they will put in, and it will be blended in. It won't even be noticed. And
it's a code or a phrase that only they know.
It's not even that. It's just a file that's mirroring other source code files, like to where they're integrated into the root directories, and they make it to where like they could have a custom-made malware that will essentially replicate like a mirror another important file that is part of the integral system, right?
Christ.
So it blends right in with its environment. However, cybersecurity personnel experts are trained to look for these things because there are things about them that will stand out. So hopefully you have a good cybersecurity expert.
Yeah, so kids, learn how to do this and change your grades in school.
Change your grades in school. What was it? Forgot where I was.
You just did the software vulnerabilities example on the left.
Oh, that's right. Yeah. So the backdoors, install the backdoors. So social engineering credential attacks. So whoever's doing the attacking will exploit the human psychology aspect to manipulate individuals into revealing their credentials or sensitive information. We talked about that. This could involve like phishing emails, which we mentioned earlier, where users are tricked into entering the login credentials, fake website, you name it. And then, they use these credentials to gain unauthorized access to the system and compromise the sensitive data. Or there's just like the brute force attacks.
Yeah, think the hacker on these hackers where they're typing away at the computer, putting things in over and over and over and over and over.
So
and
they'll
over again.
use automated tools. So like you could write they could make an algorithm, right? That its whole purpose is to run as many combinations as it can for a password until it gets it right.
Yeah, in algorithm similar to AI.
No, it does not do anything other than what you specify it to do. It's a algorithm is just a mathematical equation to solve a problem. That's it.
Gotcha.
That's all it is at the end of the day. And it's only going to do what the creator specifies for it to do. So hence they're going to refine it. So they're going to know their algorithm. I've written algorithms.
Yeah.
I'm always refining ones I made for like doing character generation, art, shit like that. And it's like you have to refine and refine and refine because you're not going to always get the proper output you're looking for, the proper desired result. And I guarantee they've refined it very well to where it's going to be pretty effective.
They probably tested it 100,000 times.
Exactly. So the attackers may use automated tools to systemically guess weak or easily guessable passwords by attempting various combinations of usernames, like you were saying, like check, guess over and over again, usernames and passwords, and they aim to gain unauthorized access to accounts or systems. And the thing is that this technique can be pretty damn effective when individuals use weak or commonly used passwords, right? So if you have a very simple password, let's say it's John 1990. Well, that's a very easily guessable fucking password.
It is.
Right? And I would bet money that John is probably that dude's real name, right? Or maybe his son's name. When they did the reconnaissance on what's all floating through the network, they see that they have kids.
Or they met him in person.
He's
like, yeah, I got a kid named John. That's his password.
1990 could either represent, and they see
the year he was born.
Yeah, they see the year he's born. They see when his kid's born. They'll try different combinations until they get it right. So this is an important thing. Once attackers successfully exploit these vulnerabilities, they may escalate privileges. And move laterally within the network, and gather sensitive information. And it's really essential for individuals and organizations to regularly apply software patches, employ strong and unique passwords, implement multi-factor authentication to mitigate the risk of exploitation-based attacks. Hence why the whole "I am not a robot" click thing exists.
And also, whenever you type in a new password, it says not strong, weak, so on and so forth. They're trying to help you.
Yes. So that pretty much covers it. There's other aspects of it. Like we already mentioned the password cracking, right?
Yeah.
For examples, there's remote code execution, right? which I want to talk about that real quick before I move to the installation, because the remote code execution, it's where hackers attempt to execute their own code on the target system by exploiting vulnerabilities that allow for remote code execution. By successfully running their code on the system, they can gain, control and escalate privileges, like we talked about, and take control of the system, right? But I feel like hearing the word remote code execution is important to hear, because they're doing it all remotely.
Yeah, they're not in your house.
They're not in your fucking
They're
house.
not in your business.
That you know of.
Yeah, they are usually in their house somewhere, probably in Bogota, Colombia.
I knew hiring cousin George was a bad idea. So there's that, right?
That damn nerd of yours.
Yeah. So segment 5. This is installation. This is phase 5. So attackers establish a persistent presence within compromised systems, and let's kind of let's look how malware is installed in subsequent, and it's basically its impact it has, right? Malicious downloads. So they'll trick individuals into downloading and executing malicious files disguised as legitimate software documents. Like we briefly mentioned that earlier, right? Where it looks like a PDF file or like an image that was sent to you, shit like that, and then you click and open it, and then that starts the installation process, right? It's going to install itself onto your PC, and shit like that. And then there's the drive-by downloads, which we already covered in one of the examples, right? Where they exploit the vulnerabilities in the websites, or a web browser or plugins to automatically download malware when you're on the site. You don't have to be doing anything. It will do it on its own. It will automatically.
Drive-by downloads.
Yep. So that happens. And, it does occur silently in the background. Just really pushing that. Really happens. Now, once the malware is installed, it can perform a range of activities, right? So it may, here's an example. It may act as a keylogger to record keystrokes. It will information capture everything you type. So let's say you have passwords to other
that are all
secure
the same
areas, right? Secure things to log into that are in the internal framework of the business that are not public. Now it's capturing all that information. So now it can get access to that, and it will keep doing it all on its own. Keep going. It will get that information, apply the information, go right in. It'll just keep traveling down this rabbit hole as far as it can go until it finds the little nest egg it's looking for, or whatever its objective is. What was it? Or steal credit cards, you name it. All the kinds of things. It could establish. It could establish a backdoor which allows the attacker to remotely control the compromised device, monitor user activities, and exfiltrate data. So they could be doing this on their phone, like no joke. You could be, they literally could have their cell phone, and they're doing this all from their phone, just sitting there. You might think the guy at the bus stop sitting there playing Tetris or some shit.
Or texting his wife.
Or texting his wife. No, he's actually fucking doing some
hacking into
shit.
NASA.
Yeah, he's remotely controlling something he hacked into through a backdoor that he installed, where he has command and control in that. Which command and control was part of these phases, like I mentioned earlier, but it's kind of like summed up in this by talking about this stuff. What was it? So remotely control, in the exfiltrate data. So it can literally, they can pull mass amounts of data. Whatever they're looking for, they can pull it. If it looks like
let's say you have your credit card saved on Google or on Apple or on any of your phone's wallets. It can just, the second it has your password to your phone.
Yep.
Boom, all your data's gone. All your credit card information, all your passwords. And they may not use it, but it's gone.
Yep. And so to protect against malware, just so you know, so malware will have specific actions. Whatever they're installing, whatever they installed, whatever they created that was custom made for what they're doing, or it may not be custom made. You could just be an average Joe and they're just throwing out some generic malware, right? That covers a few different bases. But it doesn't really matter, because the whole point of this is that, that malware will only do what it's designed to do. And a lot of the time, if the attacker is planning this shit out, they have objectives that they're wanting to get done. So that malware will be catered to getting those objectives done, right? So that's what it's there to do. So that's something to keep in mind. So protect against these malware. To protect against malware installation, and this is just like a PSA, right? Public service announcement right here. You should exercise caution when downloading files or software. Ensure that devices have reputable antivirus software installed. And regularly scan their devices for malware and keep their software and operating systems up to date. Hence, update your shit.
Right.
And make sure you have good internal security on your devices. Like your phone, I know there's not a whole lot you can do. You just update with whatever comes out, right? But if you have a computer like a PC, a tower, or a laptop, make sure you have proper antivirus installed. Like, for instance, my computer's dual booted, right? I've got Windows and Linux. Well, I have not just what Windows brings to the table with their firewall and their internal security that's part of the OS. Well, I have my own antivirus as well.
You
that
have to.
I have in here as well. Like, so I have like a dual layered thing. So I have more than one thing really checking for shit at all times.
Think of it like a fart. If you if you fart and you don't have any pants on, boom, there's no filter. It's going straight out to the air.
I wrote a script to where in the background on my computer right now, every hour on the hour, because sometimes your whatever antivirus software you're using may not catch it in a scan, like at this time, because it hasn't done anything. It's just chilling. It hasn't tried to change anything. Hasn't done anything to throw a red flag. So I have a script that I have running right now for my antivirus that literally tells it to manually scan. Like tells
It's
it to
always
keep,
looking.
always look. Do a full-fledged deep scan. I have it doing it like clockwork. I have it literally every hour on the hour while my computer's on. Anytime I turn my computer off and I turn it on, I just rerun the script, and it's doing it. Constant. I always check for shit. I've caught shit trying to break into here before. It let me know that something tried to get in. It alerted me. It was like, yo, bro, I was in the middle of playing Doom, and it popped up, and it was like, hey, bro, what the shit's going on? I was like, oh, motherfucker.
My VPNs tell me if my information is being leaked anywhere, or if anyone's trying to take my stuff, and it sort of alerts me saying, change your passwords, change your email.
Speaking of VPNs, that's another little phishing right there. People are now getting VPNs all the time, right? To protect themselves,
Yeah.
like making sure it's a verified personal, private, network, personal network, private number or whatever. Well, the thing is that you have malicious sites that give you VPNs that you can get.
Oh,
right?
yeah.
That are posing as like legitimate secure, and really what you're giving them is a straight up open door with bouquet of flowers.
Come on in.
I made you dinner too, honey. Come on in. Like, it's gonna come in. It's gonna eat all your food. It's like the Grinch, man. He's gonna come in there on
He's
Christmas
gonna
Eve.
steal your favorite shoes. He's gonna.
There's not gonna be enough, the smallest crumb for a little mouse to eat, bro. I know you're probably thinking like, well, good, fuck them mice. They've been a problem, tearing up my shit in my garage. But at the same time, it's like, well, your rest of your house fucked too, bro.
Well,
Like,
now those mice are gonna come eat you.
they're gonna.
Congratulations, you just fucked yourself.
I've seen the movie Willard. I remember that shit when it came out. If you don't know what that is, just look up the movie Willard. He controls rats with his minds. It's a weird movie.
It's a very strange
Anyways,
film.
so that's that. So one of the things is, and I'm gonna bring this up because it is. Oh, wrong one. It is. So we already covered the actions and objective, right? Actions on objective, right? Like, what is it supposed to do when it gets there? What is it seeking out? And you don't know depending on the malware, right? Because there's phase 6 and 7. Phase 6 is actually after installation, and it's called command and control, which we did touch on that. We touched on it. Everyone gets the point on that.
Yeah,
right?
you now own all actions in the server or the
like
computer.
you can manipulate,
Yeah.
change, escalate privileges to give you and set up for you being able to do whatever
You
you
have
want.
access.
And then of course there's actions on objective, which is like we mentioned earlier with the objectives and shit like that. That what it's designed to do. What is its objective? Let's say it's trying to get money from you. Okay, well, its objective is to get your bank account information. Well, okay, well, it just got your bank account. And this is rough examples, right? Very preliminary, surface value. But let's say the whole point of it is to get your, bank account information.
Yeah.
Well, now it got to its objective was to get it the information. Now, what is the action after that objective? Well, the action on that objective now is to exploit that information. Let's get get
use
money, use it, sell. Another thing is that some of these hackers don't take your money because they don't want a paper trail going back to them, right? They want to try to keep it as far away from them as possible. What they'll do is they'll sell your information to someone else who's going to do that, and they'll get paid a hefty fee. Now, they may not be able to clean out your bank account that had $100,000 in it, let's say. They may not get that $100,000, but they just made $10,000, but it's assured $10,000 that they know they're not going to get caught on now.
Yeah, I was gonna say they probably sell most of these data that they get from like higher ups to the dark web, right?
People out of country will then clean out your bank account. Who the fuck's gonna go over there and get them now, right?
Yeah, they're
makes it so much harder.
They're not gonna go to Russia or fucking Colombia or Chile or.
Especially if they're utilizing trap masking while they're doing it, where it repopulates a false representation of where you are.
A literal fake IP address.
Yeah,
right?
Geographically where you actually are in the world. It will all of a sudden for 30 minutes it might say you're in fucking Russia. Next it's India. Next it's fucking Bangkok.
Isn't that called that's not necessarily trap masking, but onion? So I remember growing up, we would do this whenever we were playing Halo over Spyglass. We would have to use something called the onion that would just bounce your IP around every 5 seconds.
Yes, it's similar to that, but it's piggybacking on real IP addresses.
Gotcha.
Like utilizing real IP addresses that exist somewhere to make it think it's coming from that literal machine that actually does exist. So that's the difference, because like the onion thing, they're not using using legitimate IP addresses. It's like a bogus one, and it constantly changes. And the reason why it constantly changes in 5 seconds, because in that 5 seconds, whatever network is over there, or whatever is looking through things that are automatic things that are in the internet that check IPs, subnet masks, all that stuff, it will know that that's fake. So it can't stay there very long. So it's like bing, bing.
Yeah, it's called
bing.
Security Onion. I just looked it up. I forgot all about it until just now. Yeah. We used to use this thing all the time.
And I hope I explained trap masking right. I hope I was right on that.
I'm sure they will let us know in the comments if we're not right.
Well, I'm gonna fact check myself real quick.
We should read some of the comments, huh?
Let me pull it up. Sorry. Let me see. What the hell is going on? Sorry. Anyways, so basically, that's overall, that's the cyber kill chain, right? And then one of the last ones is perimeter, right? Perimeter defense. Now that's not one of the phases. It's just something that's been added, right, to it, because those are like the 7, steps, right? So you got, repeat it one more time: reconnaissance, weaponization, delivery, exploitation, installation, command and control, actions on objective, right? We covered all of them because you kind of you can't help but cover them when you go through some of the other ones, right? Perimeter security. So that's in there, like the firewalls, proper anti-malware.
Just doing it ahead of time, right?
That are making a safety net around you.
Yeah.
Shit like that, literally and digitally and literally in the physical realm, right? Hence why some places in these establishments have such heavy security. It's not just let's say a bank. It's not just to stop someone from robbing the bank physically. It's also to deter and give insight if someone were to physically plant a device like a USB external drive. They would be able to witness this or see this as long as they're like CCTV cameras, things like that, aren't compromised.
Yeah, you can even use like a Faraday cage to sort of block anybody out too, which is something that I've looked into personally. I kind of want to do a Faraday cage over my entire house. I think that'd be fucking cool.
Yeah.
I only got a few questions about this. 1, has the internet gone too far? 2, are hackers assholes? 3, dude.
Repeat that one.
How dare you make me repeat myself? First off, but number 1, has the internet gone too far? 2, is it too weak? 3, are hackers assholes? 4, is peanut butter jelly that bad for me? 6, do you have any recipes for like stew?
I do with beef stew. I sent you that one video of that dude shitting himself.
That made me really ill.
Sorry, can I add something on trap masking real quick?
Of course.
So just so people know, trap masking is something that it's going to be kind of hard to find data on. It might be called something different. Trap masking is something that I was privy to because it was something that was created by someone I know, and I watched this person develop it over years, and it does the things I was referring to, right? It's very similar to the onion thing, but instead of it being something that changes every 5 seconds, it's just hiding underneath the IP address of a legitimate machine somewhere, right? So in the communication line handshake, right, on that person's network, well, they don't notice it.
Yeah, Susie Q went to cutepicturesofcats.com, and some hacker got onto her computer, then used her IP address to hack the Pentagon to get classified documents. And now Susie Q's getting fucking DDoSed and raided by the FBI.
Or CIA. Or Homeland.
Oh, Homeland Security, yeah.
Yeah. But the thing is that, obviously, me mentioning trap masking, you brought up the security onion. They're very similar. Like, there's a lot of similarities in the narrative of what they're trying to do, right? On surface value. But yeah, that covers the cyber kill chain from Lockheed Martin. And that was like their own information that they put out so people can be more aware. It's open source, shit like that.
It's more like a PSA, right? It's like a hey, you fucking idiots.
Yep.
Your shit's not safe. You're all about to get hacked.
Exactly. So it's very good, and that covers the main topic of this episode. So that I really wanted to dive into it. I was really excited leading up to this.
Yeah.
Super stoked. Just because I wrote all that up from everything I was researching.
You were fucking hype on that.
I felt like I did a good job. I know it was kind of repetitive at moments of the examples.
Well, thank you for the presentation. I thought it was informative at the least.
Normally I never do shit like that, especially in the podcast. Like most of the time I know the information well enough already, but since there's a lot of information and I wanted to use exact words, I didn't want to misquote myself and then have to fact check while I was doing it constantly. So I was like, you know what? Writing up with how much information I'm wanting to say, I was like, I want to be on point on this. And I felt like I landed the plane pretty goddamn good. Or I could be wrong. I bet you some person out there is watching this and going, you fucked up. You didn't mention this and this. And it's like,
I'm coming to get you now. Now they got our IP address, our names.
You guys get it. You get it.
I mean, you and I went to a movie today as well. We went to see Sound of Freedom.
Yes. We saw The Sound of Freedom, and it was amazing. So don't believe the bullshit, weird rumors that are going around.
That they're taking the children and draining their blood for sacrifice.
Yeah, like it's some QAnon thing. No, it has nothing to do with that. It has to do with, it's the story about...
There's like actual footage
Tim
they
Ballard,
use.
Right?
Yeah.
Yeah, and they use real footage of them raiding these stings that they set up to save children from actual sex traffickers. Like it's all about just saving kids. It has nothing to do with some global elite conspiracy.
Yeah.
I don't know why people were saying that stupid shit. And it's all leftist people putting it out, I've noticed.
Well, so, I mean...
Which is really weird.
I did a brief research on it after I watched the movie because I was like, oh, cool. What has these other actors been in or how's it doing in the box office? I was just curious.
Yeah.
It beat Indiana Jones for the most money made in the box office this week.
Yeah.
And then people are saying all sorts of crazy shit about it, like The Guardian, Washington Post, Rolling Stones, all these notoriously non-bipartisan news organizations were saying that it's like it's like falsifying large groups of elites who are not
it had nothing to do with elites. They don't talk about elites. They don't talk about any of that shit. It's just the story of Tim Ballard, who was a former Homeland Security agent, who had already arrested over 200 pedophiles.
Yeah, so he said at the very beginning, how many people have you arrested? And he said over 200 and something. And the guy said how many kids, and that's in the movie. He was like, bom, bom, bom.
Yeah, because he never gets to get the kids because every time he gets a pedophile, it's usually them engaging in something that's cyber, right?
Yeah.
Something digital. It's never the kids physically there. And so he was able to get the pedophiles, but these low class nobody pedophiles, but never the people who have the kids. And that's what set him on this thing. He got to rescue one child, and then when he rescued that child, he basically made a promise to that kid he would rescue his sister, and then that's what set us the whole thing. He ends up quitting his job, working with another multi-billionaire, and getting them to set up an island and this whole sting operation.
He ended up so the U.S. government ended up not helping him, right? Like his little Homeland Security was like, no, we can't help you any longer.
However, there is a point in the movie where it does show that he does say a conversation takes place between his former boss at Homeland, who was like, hey, because they had like progressed and and they got it set up to do this thing where they were going to get like 50 kids brought to this island, and they were posing as playboys who were pedophiles and getting them to come in, and then they had CTI waiting, which is the Colombian
FBI or whatever.
Basically the Colombian law enforcement
Yeah.
were waiting off island in boats to come in and raid, and they get arrested with the rest of them to cover their identities.
Yeah, but
as
the
if
whole
they got
he had
arrested.
like one of the striking scenes in that movie to me was like the Homeland Security guy was like, you caught a pedophile. You even saved one child. Like, give it up. Like, you don't need to save 50 of them. And
A lot of it had to do with the politics.
yeah, of course. And the guy said,
They didn't
"Fuck
have
you."
the
He quit.
jurisdiction,
He
they
said,
didn't
"Fuck
have
you,"
the-
and quit. And then
Yep.
he ended up working with the Columbia
Yep. And
police.
they
and
save all the
whatnot.
kids, and it never shows anything about some police. It's always these random sex traffickers who are like in these third world countries. It has nothing to do with.
It was a great movie. I recommend anybody
It
go
was
watch
fantastic, and it shows the actual footage there at the end of the film of them raiding the island that they set up, the false island, as the front to get them to bring the kids there. And the thing is, and people should know this too. So Jeffrey Epstein's island, that is one of hundreds or maybe thousands of islands that are in existence. I hope people know that. Everyone talks about Jeff Epstein's island. That's old news. That was the tip of the iceberg.
it. Yeah, that was just a famous name, right?
Yeah, there are countless, like I said, either hundreds or maybe in the thousands of islands of these sex islands, these sex trafficking islands, right, where these poor innocent children are literally either kidnapped or like what happens in the film, which the film is a very accurate portrayal because I did some deep dive into it before I saw the film, where he worked directly, so it wasn't over dramatized. It wasn't no Hollywood bullshit where they have some made up shootout in it. No, it was literally following the exact story of events of what really happened.
Yeah.
And that's why there wasn't some crazy over the top bullshit.
And there wasn't a lot of killing either.
No, there wasn't. The whole point of it was to just get the kids. They were trying to purchase the kids and get them arrested.
Yeah.
Because they didn't have the legal.
The only people who shot firearms were the sex traffickers, or the rebels, if you will.
Yeah, towards the end of the film.
Yeah.
Yep.
And-
Because he was getting away.
And the main actor, Jim Caviezel, who played Tim Ballard, I believe his name, never held a firearm. He didn't
No.
have one on him the entire
Nope.
movie.
Because he didn't, and plus on top of that, like if you watch the movie, but this is all public, because this happened a while ago. Like not the movie, but the
It came out
story.
July 4th, and then the story is very, very public.
Yeah, this has all the bullshit you see online about it. Don't believe it. It's not true. It's completely made up and false.
It's crazy, dude.
It was a fantastic film. It made me angry watching it, and emotional. I
Yeah.
actually cried a few different times because it's so real, and I understand if, like, even if I wasn't a parent, I had strong viewpoints already when it came to kids.
Dude,
right?
the first 20 minutes of that movie made me fucking sick. They were like sexualizing these children, like taking modeling photos of them and whatnot.
Yeah.
It was.
I kept squeezing. I ended up.
Ugh.
I was Pam. My wife was sitting next to me in the theater when we were watching it, and when they were, because of what happens is, and this is very commonplace, they'll go out and it will be like someone claiming that your kid, your daughter, or your son has that look for being a singer or for being a whatever.
Yeah.
And they'll, or something like you be a wonderful model, stuff like that, and they get these kids in these third world countries, right? And they get them to come there for doing these photo shoots, and then the parents are supposed to pick them up at the end of the day, like in this, that particular.
That right there pissed me off. They were like,
I wouldn't have left.
Oh, hell
I would
no.
have stayed right the fuck there.
They're like, come back at 7. 7?
However,
It's a
you have to
7-year-old
think,
kid. The fuck?
and then it does pose the question, like I'm sure somebody out there would think it, of the whole well, why the fuck would they leave their kid there? It's like you have to think they're going to a third world country, and it shows it in the film that this dad, he's a single father.
He's working hard.
He has to go to work. He has thing. He doesn't want his kids to be in that life. He doesn't want them to be growing up there. He's like, whoa, this person's saying that you have the potential to have this ticket to get out of here and live a better life.
Yeah.
So they take the kids there, whatever, and then he has to go to work, because if he doesn't work, he's not going to make ends meet by the end of the week, because that's how poor they are. So he goes and then he comes back and then kids are gone.
Dude, that movie was wild. It kind of ruined my whole day.
Yeah, in a way, but
Um,
also at the same time, it didn't ruin mine because it's more of enlightenment too, because you get to really submerge yourself in the reality of what really happens.
Yeah.
You know, a little bit more. Like, granted, I already knew all this information, but
Oh yeah, yeah. Don't get me wrong. I think you and I went into this movie understanding what it was going to be about,
Mhm.
but I didn't think that it was going to pull at my fucking heartstrings as much as it did.
I personally think the reason why they are making up shit about the film is for a few different reasons. I really believe is because people are participating in child sex trafficking, and kidnapping and selling kids and all that stuff. The people who are at the heart of sending these rumors, right, making up this bullshit propaganda about the film, and then on top of that, it is almost inherently bad to be a Christian nowadays in public light. It is, especially if you're a very devout Christian.
Why do you say that?
It
I
is.
mean, in relations to the film.
Like, I'm talking about, like, with Hollywood and shit like that, because Hollywood was not wanting this film to be in theaters.
Oh, no.
That's why
Yeah.
there were so many roadblocks leading up for like
Took 'em,
5 years.
Was it 6 years for them to?
And Disney was one of the fucking people, one of the biggest ones who were railroading this movie
Netflix didn't
5
want it
years ago.
either.
Yep, and they're all extremist, progressive, over sexual. Like, everyone knows how fucked up they are. If you have a shred of common sense, you know exactly how fucked up the Hollywood world is, entertainment industry in general. Of course, they wouldn't want people to watch this because it brings it to your plate where you can't look away,
Mhm.
and you have to see it, and you have to be brought to reality of what's happening, and it motivates people. It sends that message of, like, you know, taking a stand, like trying to be more vocal about it. So it's, yeah. So, but no, people get chastised, especially him. I believe that was part of the problem. Of one of the things that really they didn't like either.
That he was Christian.
That he was a very devout Christian. Man, Jim Caviezel.
Yeah,
I'm
yeah.
not even
the,
talking about
the actual actor himself, right?
Yeah, both of them were. The Tim Ballard guy, who was the actual agent. And
But there's not a lot of like religious connotations in the
There's
movie,
not.
other than him saying God's children are not for sale, right?
Yeah, that was the only.
That's like his catchphrase for saving children.
And it's his real catchphrase in
Yeah.
real life. So, like, why leave it out,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
But no, I think that was another tally mark, right? For people who aren't necessarily involved in sex trafficking, but they just don't like, "Oh, don't you bring your Christian shit."
Yeah, they're looking for anything, right? Like
I'm not a Christian, and I adore that man.
Yeah.
I adore the whole thing. I support it. I shared posts about it, telling people to do it, to do the pay it forward thing. There's a really good message at the end of the film after the credits.
Yeah.
That's a very personal message. You know, they're not making money off this. This isn't about.
Oh, they made
making
money off of it for sure.
I know, but
They
it's going
definitely did.
towards the other shit. Like,
But-
it's not for them to just have in their pockets and be rich off of. That's not what's happening.
Yeah, Jim Caviezel got so much money for doing The Passion of the Christ. The guy doesn't really need the money, but he did it anyway, right?
Jim Caviezel is a very, very good person.
I don't know. It was a good movie.
Yep.
All right, we're going to wrap it up, huh? It's a good place to stop.
That's it.
Everybody share this to your family, your friends if you made it this far. Thank you. Leave a comment,
Yeah.
like, all that shit.
Yeah.
Smash that like button.
See you guys later.
Bye-bye.
Smartly uneducated.